shi dai ki jin so ki pe so nan ki dola benjire sange drupa shu. To the excellent Buddha, Dharma, and Sangha, I go for refuge until the attainment of enlightenment through the merit of my generosity and so forth. May I attain Buddhahood for the sake of benefiting beings.
So, to continue our subject of analytical meditation or vipassana, as I was saying that we use the word analytical meditation, but it is also very observing meditation. Important to keep that in mind. So last time we talked about the three fundamental characteristics or illusion, because when we meditate, meaning we're trying to work with mind. And what does that mean is that to understand, recognize which is the healthy mind, let's say pure mind, and then what is unhealthy, impure, in terms of healthy as in something that makes you more calm, happy as an individual and as in collectively, and unhealthy as in something that disturbs us or brings more negativity and the sufferings. So this is a very foundation or the general picture of meditation, we can say that. But the actual word meditation means that once you find out, in order to create that positive habit, and then you try to build up the skillful and positive mental mindsets or habits, and that is what we call the meditation. And to do that, you can do it by following the meditation instructions, such as shamatha, vipassana, or for example in Buddhist, let's say in Tibetan Buddhism, we called the four different stages or the schools, the way how you analyze conventional reality and move to the focusing to the ultimate reality. It becomes more and more refined as you move, from the, let's say the first one, Shavakayana's approach, or the tenets of the view, and move to the Vaibhashika and Vaibhashika, Sautantika, Chittamatra, and the Madhyamika. So you kind of try to understand the category, the essence, the functions, and then you try to identify the patterns, and then you try to understand the ultimate aspects of that thoughts or mind, which would be, let's say, going beyond two extremes of appearance and emptiness, or less, maybe to put it more easy words, such as, no matter what you do, there will be the duality of subject object. There's a certain level, but you try to go beyond that. That will be the non-dual meditation. But it's important to understand the fundamental components of meditation, so you can apply to all of them, no matter. So usually the traditional suggestion is that you try and then you do it as in step by step, gradually, so that you will, when you practice the first one, you become a perfect, ready for the second one. So it will give you very good, like, foundation, stepping stone from moving first to the second, rather than randomly jumping everywhere. Or you can try and see whichever you feel, whichever approach that you feel is more helpful to your particular state of mind. We can do that. So I was trying to explain some fundamental but essential aspects of the mind, thought, or meditation, especially related to this analytical meditation, because actually the analytical meditation is not really understanding the reality, but recognizing the illusion. We might not really understand initially what is the reality, but we will become quite aware of what is not real, what is illusion, how our mind functions based on all these perfect parts of the things. So the last time that I mentioned, these are very much practice. It is general, but mostly emphasize on the you can say Sharvakas vehicle, or Vaivashikas, yeah. So today maybe I will say a few things about these. So what we mean by mind from the components point of view, and I have already mentioned the definition and the essence. So how mind functions, and especially these very thought, emotions that we have, the gross mind. It is said that there are three things that happens to have, like, let's say, thought or emotions. There's a knower, there's something that experience, that knows, that cognizes. You can call it the subject or agent. then there's a object or something to be known. So it could be tangible, it could be visualized, it could be non-tangible, it doesn't matter. So you have a something to be known, and that you have something that knows it. So you have two things. And now the important part is the communication, meaning how this knower, cognizer, cognize this object. So this is a very important part, because the whole definition, whole function, our thought, emotion, you get angry, you get happy, unhappy, it's not really these two things. Of course these two things are components, but the third one, how you relate to that object. And this, let's call it relation, or let's call it communication, right? It means how do you validate that object? How do you react to that object? How do you perceive that object? This is everything. So this is actually what mind is, this reaction towards the it could be very simple, such as seeing the flower, or to the very abstract things like, oh, there's a global warming, So it could be tangible, it could be just mental object, but there's a reaction anyway. So this is very crucial. How the mind, almost what we define mind is not just the agent, not just the object. They are part of it, but actually the almost 90% is this reaction. Is what we call good, bad, right, wrong, happy, and sad. It's all in this. The difficult part is that mostly, first of all, us, because of, again, illusion, based on I don't make differentiation, I don't make the difference between this agent, knower, and what he knows. It becomes one. Yeah? The knower, just the mere knower, yeah? Very fundamental knower. And then this knower's interpretation of something, make the story, judgment. I don't make the difference. I almost take it as one. Agent and this in between. So these three things are the system. You can call it system, I think. I have something that had an ability to judge. So that will be the agent. But this ability of judgment and the judging itself is not same thing, right? It's a different. When someone is there, he's a person. So I judge you, that's a different thing. That's my reaction, not the person just there. So this is the difficult part, to make that difference. Now, first question is that, let's say this flower. So this is, we're now trying to analyze the subject, object, and reaction. Yeah? So this is our framework of our analytical meditation. We call the subject object. So let's say I saw this flower, right? I saw this flower. Maybe let's not go into very deep, like, oh, is it my eye consciousness or my? Let's just put together my I saw this flower. Now you can ask the question. Of course, is this illusion or real? It's very real. Right? The flower is there. I saw it. I experienced it. There's no doubt with me. Nobody has to really tell me, oh, that is a flower. You have seen that. You have to visualize. No, not that. But of course, this is not something we're trying to prove to somebody else. It's about our own observation, meditation. So the question is that we have to ask ourselves: is that a flower because of the flower? Yeah. And when I say flower, I'm talking about the object. And because of that, I, as subject, saw it as a flower. It's a flower object. I, the one who knows flower, seeing flower as a flower is something that is a habit, my reaction, experiencing flower. So the question is it because of this is flower, and that's why I see it as a flower? Or because I saw it as a flower, and because of that, this object became a flower. What I'm trying to say is that, okay, so who is the real and who is the mirror? Right? The simulation is some sort of happening there. So, but the question is object simulating my mind? No, subject. But this is my subject that is simulating to the object. So I see it as flower because of that is flower, or it is a flower by its own nature, and that's why I saw it as a flower. So I think it's quite easy, yeah? Because it is a flower, we cannot deny that. But the question is, so how do we know that that is a flower? What is the valid reference, so to speak? So what is the criteria to prove that this is a flower? Now the second question is that, because until we prove whether this is flower or whether I perceive it as a flower, we can only talk about seeing flower as a flower is either the illusion or reality. Until, because we even don't know this is flower or not, so how we say seeing flower as a flower is valid, because it has to go accord with whether there is a flower or not. And now it's not decided still. We don't know. It might seems like this is a little bit mental trick, yeah, but actually this is very in order to really go into our fundamental illusion, this is very important question. Of course, now I'm just talking about flower, maybe it doesn't make my life good or bad, but then not just a flower, all your other decisions are made on the same system. Enemy, bad, good, disappointment, because it becomes quite important. And we are not trying to work with the symptoms, yeah? We're trying to work with the causes, trying to understand what is the fundamental components of our illusion. Now, it is very likely when we ask these questions, we will say, of course, it's a flower, and because of that, I saw it as a flower. So what we're trying to say is that object is a primary. Our consciousness is a mirror of that. It's what you call the secondary. So that means you see how object is, right? That's what I'm trying to say when you say. That means it's very, if that's the reality, that's the truth, then it is very unlikely that you will make any mistakes, because you're always seeing the as it is. You're not making any mistakes if that's true, if this object is primary. Means, so now the second question is, if that's the true, is a flower impermanent or not, yeah? Maybe we will say, of course it is impermanent, yeah. But when you look at the flower, do you see or not impermanent, yeah? Not really. So why? You see the flower, yeah? It's a one attribute of flower, but so many that you don't see it. Not only you see it, but what you do? You impure, permanent. So that means you don't always see what the object is. So it's, if you see how things are, probably nobody will get confused, isn't it? Why we get confused? Because we don't see the object clearly, and you impute something from the subject, thinking that is the how object it is, and all the illusion works very well. Okay, now as I say, the point is that when we believe that actually this is the third one, communication is a very undiluted pure communication, mean, for me, seeing perfect flower is a very pure, it's a very real, there's nothing that's kind of interrupting it. But again, the question is our communication really pure? Means, are we really reacting, with let's say, without any kind of exaggeration and any kind of denigrations? So this is a very important, because why difficult to change our habit is that we are very confident about something. We even don't doubt there's anything that is impure, in the sense of something that is confused. It's very unconfused, right? But this is the question: is it really? Are you really, this communication happening between, it's my reaction, is it really pure? Is it really completely unbiased? It is really without any kind of exaggeration and the denigration? Is it really like not manipulated by anything else? When you do that, there will be lots of questions comes up, more and more questions comes up, which is very good. But sometimes you will ask question to yourself, and sometimes you ask question to the, I don't know, the other reality, which is trying to tell you that you are biased. So this biasness, this manipulated communication, in our technical it's called the Tsushin Main Ba Yilechepa. It means seeing something that is not what it is. Imagine that, let's say, why we confused rope as a snake. This is maybe a good example for that. The point is that scariness is a problem, right? And whether we like a scariness, we don't. Okay, so that's the point. But to do that, you have to go back. If you always see rope as a rope, remember the object as a primary, nobody will mistaken rope as a snake. There's no reason. We don't see that, and because of that, the illusion of snakes happens. Second one. Even the rope is there, agent is there. So what was the problem? Improper reaction. Based on this, means that not just not seeing the rope, If that's the only problem, maybe then that's not that bad. What we do, we exaggerate the rope, and it's very likely that when you saw it, it's almost like moving a little bit, because you assume that the snake usually moves, right? So this the not just seeing the object. First of all, it's very clear that it's not coming from the object. Yeah, is the snake coming from the object? I mean, by the power object? No. It's coming from the subject. The second thing is that the communication was not pure, impure in the sense that it was mistaken reaction. It's not just you didn't see the rock, but you impute as a snake. So exaggeration, see? You didn't see rope as a rope, denigration, right? But not only that, you label it as snake, exaggeration. So was it a pure? Not at all. It is completely diluted and manipulated by this exaggeration and the denigration. Now, if object is primary, if object is primary and we see according to that, that means, let's say if there's a dog, and I'm looking at this object, dog is also looking at that object, and dog should also see exactly the way I see, because it's an object, right? I mean, of course we can debate whether dog is right or I'm right, maybe there's a difference, but at least me and dog, both of us, since the primary is the flower, right? Beautiful rose flower, and both of us should experience that, not differently. So the question is, why one object, exactly the same object, can be so different to the two subjects? Shows is that it's not an object. The object is not a primary. It's a subject. Now, how to react this object as a human being, as a dog? It all depends on the whole system. What kind of system the dog has, and what kind of system I have. And even among the human beings, we have a different systems. Means certain culture, flower is very important, you pay a lot of value, it kind of triggers your certain kind of emotion. Certain culture is not maybe important, and it doesn't trigger much. Now, the second question we might ask, we might argue with that. Of course, it is a flower, and because of flower, I see this as a flower. And if it's the only subject, then I just look at this, and why I don't see this lamp as a flower? Why only this one, right? Why there's a time and space rule? Now, the thing is that even though it is an individual subject, but we have a common rule. Okay, it is very possible that I might see lamb as a flower and flower as a lamb. It's very possible. There's no reason why it cannot. But as long as I'm talking about like in our state, this very human now, and we're all kind of from the earth, and living in 2000. So we almost like we call the commonly experience perceptions. So since we all have a common experiences, so it's not like I see this as a lamb and you see this as, it doesn't happen like that, but it's possible. There's no reason why it's not, but it's not because we all are in the kind of sphere of commonly experiences world, reality. But as an experience, even though it looks like I see flower or you see flower, but actually it's not true. It's a very individualistic experiences happening there. How I react to this flower is very much what kind of system that I have from my childhood, from my culture, from my belief mindset, and then how you relate to this flower, important or not, it's completely based on your background, culture, mindset. Even though we don't really argue whether it is flower or not, but how I relate to the flower is very different actually. It's very individualistic. So now we might argue, say, no, actually, we need an object, right? Like, I need a flower to see it as a flower. If I do this, I don't see the flower. So object is very important. It is, but only in certain sphere, not always. If you say that in order to experience, you necessarily has to have an object, then the question is that how do you see elephant in your dream? I guess there is no elephant. It's illegal. You cannot bring elephant. But of course we can say, oh, this is reality, it's a dream, we can call it, but then it's just we're labeling two different, but there's nothing different. How we experience here and how we experience in dream. We can call dream as reality, this as a dream, it doesn't really matter, but experience is exactly the same. So how do we see the object from the subject that never exists? So it's hard to find who is primary, but it is very, it shows a lot of evidence that it is more subjective as far as we can experience. But then the question, of course, why? Why you see something is not there? Of course, we can say because of my old system, because of my confusion, all these things. But again, the point, a very good point here is that, okay, so who designed this system? Basically coming back to our habit. Who designed our habit? And the second question is, can we change that or not? So when you really penetrate, there's so many possibilities. Good possibilities. And that's not only, I think, from the Buddhist point of view, but even scientifically, these days you talk about that physically you can make your brain not exactly the change, but you can do that, right? It's not that you have one brain and you have to live there for whole life. Neuroplasticity, is it? Yeah. So otherwise it's kind of like you're born with brain, you have to delete bad luck. I'm sorry. If you're angry, you're depressed, I'm sorry. But don't blame into your parents. So who give you that brain, bad brain instead of good brain? So I think these are very it's analyzing subject and object meditation, but maybe in a very easy way, so to speak. Not going to very subtle, but looking at more like observation kind of way. And then you can use that with because the flower, it doesn't make much difference, it's a flower, but it's really, let's say someone really you don't like, you really hate the person, and see how much the reality is there and how much you exaggerate it and how much this happens so unconsciously. Right? And how much of negativity it triggers, like the negativity feeding another negativity, I don't like this person because of that. I don't like his friend, and even I don't like the way he walk, So whole, what do you call the domino effects of negativity. So point is that if we really wanted to be the peace, it's very important. Let's say if you wanted to control not control, but work with our mind, you really have to understand biasness or unbiasedness. Because as long as you have bias, you will never be able to control that emotional reaction, right? For example, when you get angry to somebody, you're really like, you're not looking at the causes of the anger. You're judging the person through the symptom. It will be like a bad doctor. You say, oh, I have fever. Oh, you have fever, you have a tuberculosis. It's not. So when you see the causes, the person, and there's a lots of wisdom to work with anger, not by suppressing it, by through the understanding. As long as you don't do that, when you meditate, you try to work with your emotion, it's more like suppressing or trying to substitute with some sort of shallow distractions. And that's why the analytical meditation is called vipassana, which means that seeing the reality, seeing the things as it is, not exaggerating it, not denigrating it. So actually the meditation actually is not difficult, because it's not that you have to create something, you just have to accept the reality, that's it. You don't have to really push it because it's already there. So in the practice, like say mind training, we call this is the first kind of stages meditation you do with the, we call it is said that like in the Chunan Milam Taprasam practice, perceive, see everything as a dream. That's how it is. But meaning is that how subject and object, you know, and the relation, the communication, and especially the recognizing the impureness, biasness, you know. That one. So there's a 4 stages to go more deeper. This is the fundamental that we have to work. And this is of course the like general theory or idea, you know. And then you can apply this to any kind of other meditations, small meditations you do, and you just focus on one of them. And when you do that, observe it, and when it seems that there's nothing to say is or is not, and nothing to be pointed out, and then you just try to remain on that, you know, few seconds if you can, and then you can again do it again, trying to remain on that. So that will be the resting meditation as a result. But each time you do, it will really like soften your rigidness of illusion.
So when you come to a knot, you can call it a knot, you know, like of like that can't quite see or quite, is it best to just like just rest, rather than pushing, because it's just
if
rest.
you push, then
not just
you
gets worse.
squeeze too much.
Yeah.
Just try not to stay. That's it. And that will be shamatha in a sense. So it's, you can do shamatha, vipassana first and then go to shamatha. You know, there's a little bit different kind of shamatha, but it is a part of shamatha because it's a resting state of our mind. Or you can do shamatha and go to vipassana, it doesn't matter. But usually when you meditate, we call the session shamatha. It means that no matter whatever meditation you do, first you have to really calm down physically, you know, for 2-3 minutes. If you start just doing, then your mind is already in. So you have to calm down to just tune your physical, you know, make breathing and your posture. 2 minutes, and then you start. That is maybe the preliminary shamatha, vipassana, and then actual meditation with shamatha. But these are things that you have to do it on the spot, because otherwise it becomes theoretical meditation. I mean, of course it will help you, but then you won't see the effect. That obviously, you know, you will be a very good when you are in your room, but then you won't be good when you're with your friends, you know. And then, I mean, it will be good if you just say in a cave, but otherwise, you know, it will be hard to. It becomes almost useless, you know. But to again expect not meditating session by yourself and expecting, okay, I will go to with my friend and then like act like everything's okay, it doesn't work as well, because you never prepare, you know. It becomes more like this fake one. Something is not like you're trying to be like you are. So you have to train really individually in session, but you have to use that when in the post meditation, then it becomes very well. But this is, each thought has this process, right? You don't have to wait or find out, environment for that. Usually, when our thoughts patterns become a little bit too overwhelming, and that is the right, because everything you see is very clearly. Right now I'm not angry, so it's hard to see the anger and this unbiasedness. But when anger happens, then you really see this one by one, how this impurity, the impurity relation, communication comes each moment after each moment. You see each of them very clearly, and that's the right moment to do that. And this is almost like we say that in a meditation, you're trying to guard something, right? But as long as you don't know who is a thief, it's always a scary. You never know. It's a feeling of very insecure. The moment we recognize already before the thing is stolen who is the thief, you can be quite relaxed, because you already know who is the thief. So it doesn't really matter whether he goes in the right, left, because you can be quite relaxed because you caught the thief. And you already knew whom to blame. Ultimately.
You have to wonder who did it.
So this is kind of like that. Okay, I think I'll stop here. Sanam de tamche sipani tabne nebe danam pamche ne keka nachi balab trupai sebe sole drowa
By this merit may all obtain omniscience, made to beat the enemy wrongdoing, from the stormy waves of birth, old age, sickness, and death, from the ocean of samsara may have free all beings.